welcome. We will continue with the Heart Sutra commentary. There are some newcomers. How many of you have never heard the Heart Sutra? Raise your hand. Okay, you heard of that. Yeah. We're on the first sentence after all these talks, the series. And that's because I want to make the Heart Sutra applicable in daily life. The Heart Sutra actually describes daily life. It describes who we are. It describes our experiences. It is our environment. It is everything that we experience. It is who you are. So the Heart Sutra talks about what constitutes a human being, us, you and me. It talks about how we experience the world, the faculties through which we experience the world. Eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. It talks about the world, the environment. Which does not fall outside of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought. There's nothing that falls outside of that. So it provides a framework to examine who we are, our experiences, our world, our environment, including the people that we know, for purposes of freedom, alleviating difficulties, anguish, suffering, and the possibility of wisdom. Right? So even though in Chinese there's only 260 characters, I've never counted how many English words there are, but it's like a page long. Not only that, the basic premise that I talked about. The Heart Sutra is indeed very profound because it provides a pathway for beginners or practitioners, Dharma practitioners, to intermediate, to seasoned practitioners, post-awakening practitioners, how they actually experience the world, how they view their own experience of wisdom. So it's the whole complete path, the path of wisdom. And the expression of wisdom in our interaction with daily life, that's compassion. So wisdom in action is basically compassion. It takes many forms. So that's the Heart Sutra in general. We've been covering the Heart Sutra not from an intellectual perspective, like concepts. I've been highlighting the Heart Sutra from the perspective of practice. So I focus on Avalokiteshvara for several talks. And several methods connected to Avalokiteshvara, from reciting the name of Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion, kind of recitation practice, to influential short scriptures connected to Avalokiteshvara, probably apocryphal text, like indigenous Chinese text, that provides a synopsis of the efficacy of the practice of compassion. So people recite it. Basically 10 lines, I spoke about that. I spoke about Avalokiteshvara's own awakening process, and that was very important. Contemplation of hearing. And I spoke about 7 stages of that. Do you all remember? Some of you? Right. From contemplating sound, shifting to contemplating hearing. Direct contemplation of sound, perceiving, experiencing, embodying sound, to the stage of silence. Maybe an entry from contemplating silence by becoming aware of the gaps between sounds. And experientially, perceiving that there's no real differentiation between sound and silence. Do you remember that? Silence is a sound. Right? And that shift to the cessation of sound, to the actual hearing faculty. So you start with a sound, consistent sound. Right? You want to have a meditation object, you don't want to kind of change all the time. To noticing the gaps, the silences. And I used the example of John Cage, the musician, composer. He recognized that everything is music, everything is sound, even silences. That's where he stopped. Avalokiteshvara went further. When you perceive silences as sound, slowly, sound and silence cease. It's just silence because discursive thinking have diminished. Wandering thoughts have diminished. So what becomes prominent is actually silence of the mind. From silence, it morphs to, when the sound of silence ceases, it's just the momentum of hearing, that capability, that freshness, hearing itself. Entering the stream where sound, silence vanishes. Avalokiteshvara didn't stop there. He continued to contemplate the faculty of hearing. From the hearing, he recognized emptiness. Hearing itself is made up of non-hearing. It depends on your faculty. And what is it that's present? Experiencing. What is this experiencing? Consciousness. The presence of mind. So when sound ceases, it's just hearing. When hearing ceases, it's just experiencing. He didn't stop there. And that experiencing is a kind of hollowness, present yet absent. There's a kind of borderline emptiness. It's not real emptiness. Why? Because at that moment, the meditator's attention is on the experiencing of this hollow vacuity. Emptiness becomes the object of the mind's grasping. It's a very subtle form of grasping. Emptiness is taken as the self. It's just a contemplation state. It's not true emptiness. So Avalokiteshvara didn't stop there. He continued. Emptying emptiness. The sixth stage. The experiencing of that freshness, hollow vacuity itself is empty. None of these stages are conceptual. None of them are discursive. It's just embodied experiencing. And in that moment, rising and ceasing ends. Nirvana manifests. So this is the awakening of Avalokiteshvara. When emptiness is emptied, selflessness is not attached to. There's the identity of form is emptiness. It's not just empty. There's a presence, yet the presence is empty. It's just a wondrous display, moment to moment condition arising. It's like this moment, wondrous display of your eyes, the sight, and that consciousness. It's just this wondrous interplay. Is it empty? It's empty. Is form present? Of course it is. Is attachment there? No. It's like you see me or you see an object. There's no self there, nor is there anything possessible. Everything is there. Grasping is not there. The extra side product of our subjectivity, the side product of this process, neurological process of creating moment-to-moment subjectivity is there, but the subject is not. We need subjectivity, otherwise we'll be running into walls when we walk. We driving through red lights. Right? It's a natural functioning. And that is what liberates suffering. So we've been talking a lot about that, focusing on the word Avalokiteshvara. And then the meaning, the significance of bodhisattva, which focuses on the compassionate expression of this wisdom. Right? How it interacts with the world as method of practice. If you missed those talks or have forgotten about it, you can look at YouTube videos. Right? So I went in pretty deep, in depth on all of these things, very slowly, because we're in no rush. Right? The point is practice. The point is not to kind of finish this text, although we will finish it. And then for the last talk, we spoke about five skandhas, because when Avalokiteshvara was coursing in the deep prajna paramita, wisdom, transcendent wisdom, the emergence or the presence of wisdom. That's the last stage of Avalokiteshvara's own awakening. He perceived that five skandhas are empty. It's what constitutes us. Form, sensation, perception, volition, volitional impulse, or action. Form, sensation, perception, volition, consciousness. Right? So, the presence of all these five are empty. And last talk, I focused on early Buddhist teachings on the five skandhas, which provide a framework. For most people, it's new way of experiencing the world, experiencing themselves. Right? So part of the practice of contemplation is to learn to see ourselves, experience the world through the five aggregates, skandhas. Right? So one by one, familiarizing what is form. Right? The four elements: earth, water, fire, wind. Solidity, fluidity, warmth, breath. Right? And sensation, being in tune with the body to understand the unmediated, learn to recognize the unmediated experience of this moment. Sensation is always present. Like right now, you're sitting. We don't focus on it, so we're not aware of it. It's always present. On the most raw level, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It can't be simultaneous. It can be instantaneous, sequential, so fast, shifting. Can't simultaneously occur. Right? And then perception is the overlay of our judgments, the ability to symbolize. Like this gentleman in front of me wearing blue shirt. Right? What is your name? Gray. Right. So blue shirt or aqua. That's perception. It's a totally made up overlay. In the word blue, there's no blue in it. It's just a word. Right? So but when I say blue, can you picture it? Yeah. Perception. Right? The mind's ability to create, fabricate, construct a reality of blue. It's very simple, but we construct everything. Like our whole world is a construct of our mind. Like your mind, I spoke about this during the talk. Your mind has never lived outside of your skull. It's just dark. Right? So to the mind, it's just electrical signals. Right? Retina, occipital cortex, say, hey, you're blue. Right? You're blue, you're blue. That ability to symbolize, to represent, construct a representation, that's perception. So I call that overlay. So we have something like this, right? An object, And we have an overlay, a clock, that's black color. Visually, it's very easy to understand, correct? Yeah. But I feel it, right? You can say, well, sensationally, I actually feel it. I could not give it a name, but I could feel it. But actually, the feeling itself, your brain has never felt anything either. Right? Your brain is here. Right? So the sensation is just, it's not the processing, neurological processing to the occipital cortex, but it's to other pathways, just signals. So all the entry points of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought go through the process of sensation and perception overlay. And then on the basis of that, our habit tendencies of volition. It's one aspect. Another aspect is the responses, the emotional, psychological, mental responses to perception. Everything that's not sensation, not perception, it's a catch-all phrase, right? Volition. And there are different mental factors, particular mental factors that the Buddha's teaching identify. 51 in the Yogacara tradition of mental factors. All of them are volition. Right? But volition also includes kind of physical, verbal as well. So it's a catch-all. None of this can happen without consciousness. Right? Consciousness has two functions. One, it pervades the previous three skandhas. Sensation, perception, volition. It pervades the three to allow it to be experienced. On the other hand, it functions as a repertoire, Santa Claus bag, for all of our karmic impressions as seeds, deposits in that, which color the next moment of perception. It's continually shaping, moment to moment to moment. So it has these two functions. So early Buddhist teaching provide these 5 dimensions for purposes of freeing ourselves from our grasping, deep-seated grasping onto a sense of me, I, and mine, something that we identify, and something that's possessible. If you look at early Buddhist texts, the Buddha always says, when he analyzes using the Five Skandhas, there are 2 things that he tackles. He says, this is not me, this is not mine. So we have this tendency to, and we are hardwired. Back then they didn't have neuroscience, but we're actually hardwired to do that. We're hardwired. We're supposed to identify our experiences, me, and then mine, in order to navigate through daily life. Do you understand? We're wired to do that. We're wired visually, for example, to create a sense of visual subjectivity here, and all of you are out there. Otherwise, we'll be running into things, like things will be merging. Like our neurological pathway is supposed to function like this. When the pathways are disrupted through drugs, LSD, some lesions, some accident, then you may think you can actually walk through walls. Like there's no spatial orientation anymore, for example. So it's supposed to function like this. But because of our deep-seated ignorance, not low intelligence, ignorance, we've taken the side product, the functioning, as something permanent. There's nothing wrong with the functioning. We've identified that and reified, solidified that through our own lived experience, history, memory, from days to weeks to months to years. Again, memory helped us to navigate, otherwise we wouldn't recognize anyone. But through that natural functioning, we've mistakenly, that's the ignorance part, mistakenly identify something that's actually permanent. It is a Guo Gu-ness to Guo Gu. Right. So the sense of self that the Buddhists talk about functions on multiple levels. All the functionings are normal, usable. But the side product of this functioning, we've solidified and reified that into a separate, through mistaken perception, separate, like I'm different from you. But actually we're related. Intimately. Separate, permanent existence. That's what the problem is. And all aspects of the functioning of who we are, of our functioning, contributes to that. Like the subjective self, the spatially oriented self, the narrative sense of self, like you know who you are, where you grow up, and the story about yourself. All of these multiple levels of selves in the plural form contributes to this sense of separate, permanent existence. That's where the problems come from. So the Five Skandhas of the early teachings does not want to get rid of functioning, does not want to get rid of memory, like some people think, if I get enlightened, will I remember? Do I have a personality? Nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. Right? But it wants to dismantle this mistaken grasping of the natural, wondrous functioning of the sixth sense faculty, sixth sense objects, and the moment-to-moment freshness of experiencing consciousness. Derived from eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Right? But here, the Heart Sutra, this is the Mahayana text. It says, when the Bodhisattva coursing in wisdom perceives that the five skandhas are empty. There's a double meaning here. So the first talk, I talk about how the five skandhas allows us to experience, to come to the realization and appreciate that we are connected to everything else. There's nothing wrong with the natural functioning with us. and all the experiences that we have. The culprit is the reification. Right? So it uses the 5 elements, aggregates, to dismantle this sense of unity, sense of separateness. Does that make sense? You follow? The double meaning here is the 5 skandhas themselves are empty. That's the Mahayana view. That is the method. The newly acquired, learned framework of the 5 skandhas themselves are constructs. You have to understand the 5 skandhas first, because it's a very helpful way when we are suffering, whenever we are suffering, whenever we feel anguish, sadness, anger, fear, you can bet the me, I, mine is present. That reified sense of me, I'm suffering, why is this happening to me? Which doesn't exist. It's a pure fabrication. It's a product of the processing. What we are is simply this psychosomatic events. Moment to moment to moment events. The product, the side product of this me, I, mine, I'm the one who's, why is this happening to me? Unnecessary. But this is something that we've always known, always assumed. The whole world is in on producing the sense of me, I, mine. It's all that we've ever known. You're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too ugly, you're too pretty. Yes, people can be too pretty. The pretty people have problems of their own, right? All of these things, we're completely infused, reared, conditioned this way. So this is all that we've ever known. So it's natural to. Of course it's me. It's my thoughts. It's my opinion. Actually, your opinion comes from something else. Something you read, something you learned, something you thought of. With the ability of symbolize words and language. Where'd you get that from? That comes from learning. It's just these things unfolding. There's a hollowness to it. So in the contemplation, I wanted all of you to familiarize with seeing ourselves functioning through these 5 lenses, dimensions. That's when Buddha Dharma comes to work. It's not intellectual knowledge. We don't need any more knowledge. What we need to do is experience. Just learn through direct, concrete experiencing of form, of embodiment, being in the body, and familiarizing warmth, the sense of solidity, the sense of fluidity, and the breath. Just singling that out. Familiarize it, how it works. Through experience, it will begin to work on this solidified, reified sense of self. It will start to dismantle it. Come at it through dharmas, phenomenal appearances. So from the early Buddhist teaching, it's kind of like phenomenology, like phenomenal appearances, experiencing. to dismantle this erroneous idea. Or you can come at it through sensation, very much in tune. I mean, how do you have sensation? You need a body to have sensation. I was giving a class at FSU. I'm teaching a course now. It's an excellent course. I'm excited to teach it. It's called Buddhist meditation. One of the person I was talking about, sensation of nose, different breath. I said, how do you know you have sensation? Oh, because breath. I said, does breath have nerve endings? Does oxygen have nerve endings? How do you know? She says, no. Correct. What is it that have nerve endings? So contemplation of breath, anapanasati, it's actually about sensation. Your sensation, your nerve endings at the nostrils pick up cool, warm, light, heavy, silky, smooth, coarse, turbulent, less turbulent, long, short. It's your sensation. It's not the breath. We need the body to have sensation. So having a foundation in contemplating the four elements, we come to appreciate the wondrous display of the four elements, how it interacts with the world, with others, and then how that generates sensations. And you'll come to appreciate that it's not even your sensation. Sensation have a life of its own. That's why the Buddha said, there's no you there, nor is there mine. Your sensation? Yeah, conventionally, yeah, your sensation. But if it's truly your sensation, you can control it, right? I only want to experience coolness. You can't do it. It will experience warmth. It has a life of its own. It goes out warm, come in cool. Right? Sometimes it's silky, sometimes not. There's no self there. There's just this miraculous functioning of nerve endings, sense faculty, contacting wind, breath, giving rise to moment-to-moment changing sensations, all of which out of your control. All of which nothing to do with you. All of which you don't even need a you to have. It just happens by itself. That will start to dismantle through personal experience, and then pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Continue to shift. And deepening that experience, you'll find that it shifts circumstantially. Right? If someone were to force you to sit in a pretzel shape like meditation, it's going to be unpleasant. But if you want to do it yourself, you think this is a great thing. Same posture, same body, different sensation. What the heck's going on here? Whose sensation? What's mediating? What is mediating pleasant, unpleasant? It's the same heap of flesh and bones. What is mediating it? Perception. Perception, the culprits. Oh, that's pleasant. This is not pleasant. Overlay. They're not completely linear. They're almost simultaneously. So shifting circumstances, conditions, same body, same space, same object, you have different sensations. None of which has anything to do with you. None of which is you. None of which is possessible, controllable, manipulable. moment to moment freshness, new beginnings, freedom. You're free. So the Five Skandhas, if you continue with each one, it's very useful in that sense. So it must be personally experienced. Don't just read it. Don't just try to memorize it. Learn to use this framework to actually experience everything. Right? And that experiencing itself finally coming to consciousness. That experiencing itself is totally not controllable. It's just everything happening by itself. It doesn't mean we have no intelligence. Our intelligence, our thinking becomes freed up, in which our mind can start to make connection to new things. That's the mark of intelligence. Not stuck in an old rut. Your mind clear of obstacles, which is primarily vexations, centering on me, I, mind, grasping. Once that's free, the mind, it becomes clear. The mind can function clearly, more effectively, more creatively. Right? Freedom. Having done this, if you haven't done this, watch the video, take notes, practice it. Having done this, now we get to the ninth topic, which is the five skandhas themselves are empty. In meditation or in our contemplation, or just pure observation, there's nothing special. You can do it in sitting meditation, of course, which makes it somehow special, but you can do it in daily life. Right? Just put on your Five Skandhas glasses and experience your daily life. Right? And as you avail yourself to what is present in this moment, you will begin to have something surfacing in your consciousness, and that is a sense of freedom. We call it the experience of no self. Just a taste of this free functioning of the Five Skandhas, in which there's no need for self, no need for the burden anymore. Everything happening by itself. The sense of that becomes the experience. Is that no self? Unfortunately, not. The mind has grasped onto that experience as the self. The attention, the awareness is focused there. It has picked up, in other words, another glasses. The old one, chucked it out, a new one, emptiness. Sense of freedom. And in fact, you feel free. How many of you have experienced this? Like you feel a sense of freedom. There's a you there. You feel emptiness. You experience emptiness. The culprit's still there. It's just changed glasses. So that must be dismantled. Sometimes what's common is feeling this freshness, this, we'll call it emptiness, hollow vacuity. A common symptom is the person looking at other people. Everyone else is pitiable. Yeah, So all my students can look at me, look at their own teachers. Just pitiable. When I was in the monastery, like fellow Dharma practitioners, I had this Dharma brother practice very, very intensely. And monks were in our quarter, were kind of joking around, bantering around. Yes, monks do fool around, banter with each other, tease each other, make fun of each other. And he's so serious all the time. Like this one, he sees everyone as not practicing. You have great potential. Just too bad, it's kind of like that. Self is very strong there. It's just changed different glasses. Another symptom is noise, annoyance, disturbance, busyness, even responsibilities. You feel like you want to let go. You want to let go of them. Yeah. This, in the Buddhist text, especially the Prajnaparamita text, the Sanskrit is the experience of jada, J-A-D-A. In Chinese is 完空. 完空. Translation means dead emptiness, stubborn emptiness. It's just a lopsided emptiness, passivity. Very common for seasoned practitioners. They are obstructed by emptiness. And because they are obstructed by emptiness, they are obstructed by form. Form and all the multitude of appearances are obstacles, prevents you from experiencing peace. Yeah, and all the accompanying attributes of self-referencing is there. Greed, aversion, fundamental ignorance, arrogance, and doubt. 5 root vexations, completely present, but veiled, glossed over to that beautiful experience of emptiness. Something that you have, which is not a distinct feature. You've attained it. That means there's gaining and there's definitely losing. There's definitely having and all of you who are lacking. Right. Very subtle, very subtle. If that person does not have a teacher or does not have fellow practitioner they can check in with, the person can stay in that state for a long time. In that constructed emptiness. What needs to be done is someone to come over and shatter that emptiness. A teacher. But the person doesn't, it's possible that the person doesn't even feel like they need a teacher a lot of times, because they are their own teacher. That's the pitiable state. It's because that person, from the chant perspective, has entered into the dark side of the mountain in the ghost cave of emptiness. It's a deeper layer of that expression. So it is pertinent to empty the emptiness. And this correlates to Avalokiteshvara's fifth stage that I identified in the contemplation of sound, in the silent quiescence when objects are forgotten. Right? And it's just empty. But the self is there. The self and emptiness become identified. And that must be dropped. By turning around the five skandhas themselves as constructs. In other words, the method, the framework, the pathway, recognizing the emptiness. First, early teachings focus on the emptiness of self. Right? Anatman. The later teachings, on the foundation of that, focus on the emptiness of phenomenal appearance, construct, Dharma. Not Dharma in terms of teaching, but inclusive of that, but the Dharma of the skandhas themselves. Right? The frameworking. Recognition itself could be sufficient. Recognition of the emptiness of this state itself is sufficient. But it is still contrived. Because one is still in the state of method. Right? Oh, now I have to shift. Five skandhas themselves are empty. You're still stuck on this side of the wall, this side of the room. You haven't gone through to the other side. So typically, the chant tradition provides some special methods to push the practitioner to let go. One is interaction with teacher itself. These extemporaneous interactions, that itself is a very efficacious chant method, provided the teacher knows what he or she or they are talking about. So meeting in interview rooms, meeting in daily circumstances provides that jolt. That's one method. Another one is huatou, gong'an, provides that jolt that you can let go. It's possible also for silent illumination. But not the silent illumination that teachings that ordinary people teaches. That's a whole topic by itself. I don't want to get into. But my teacher has written on silent illumination. I also have a book on silent illumination. Most people practice silent illumination in a mistaken way, a kind of quiescence. They don't really know what illumination is. So if you want to know more, you can look at my teacher's book, Methodless Method, and my book, Silent Illumination, very, very, very carefully. It's very easy to miss. what is it that transpires? Focus on what is it that actually transpires that provided the impetus to break through. Right? Don't focus on the body, sensation, feeling, grounded. That's just method. Right? So these three approaches. Mahayana Buddhism provides the contemplation itself of the five skandhas as empty. The constructs, the path itself. The boat that we carry to cross to the other shore. Once you're on the shore, you don't need to hold on to the boat anymore. Gotta let that go. But the recognition itself is useful. Just to know that is useful. Because that alerts us to the fact that the experiencing is itself empty. Even though you're experiencing emptiness, right? Selflessness, or a sense of freedom, you feel that you're free. You feel that this vast openness. That is self. Just by knowing that will promote the relinquishing. What is it like when the five skandhas are empty? Through Avalokiteshvara, transcending wisdom. The person no longer obstructed by phenomenal appearances, by form, by noise, by annoyances, disturbances, vexations. No longer disturbed by that. At the same time, disturbances, vexations, annoyances has no hold on you. They're there. So the karmic imprints is there, but it has no hold on you. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. This is a very unique way of being. This is awakening. When a person's awake, it's not that nothing is there. It's not vacuity. Everything's there, but the grasping is not there. What is there then? The miraculous functioning of conditions. Including your own history, your own conditioning. When you encounter this circumstance, this habit tendency could come up. When you encounter that person, this habit tendency come up. Nothing to do with you. It's just, they just come up. Right? But you're not affected by them. Now you could fool yourself and say, oh, they're just there. I don't need to practice. I don't need to practice vexations. I completely accept them. Right? And then you're vexed. That doesn't count. So you're not actually vexed, but the conditions present themselves. We see this again and again and again and again. In early texts, in the Vinayas, also in, of course, Mahayana Sutras, and in chant text, early text, for example, some arhats. All these arhats, great disciples of the Buddha, they have their personality traits, and they have these residual vexations. The three poisons are gone. The wine is dumped out, but the stench is still there. You can see it in even the first patriarch of the chant tradition, Mahakashyapa. Mahakashyapa's stench. I shouldn't really talk about stench. Mahakashyapa's aloofness, arrogance. Why? He was a Brahmin. He was a prince too himself. He had that air about him. And he countered that with extreme asceticism. But he was not a person that's approachable. Have you encountered those people? There are some teachers like that. Like when you first encounter this teacher, you feel their eyes just pierce right through you. It's not really approachable. But in time, you realize their trustworthiness. Have you encountered people like that? There are other teachers. Desire is present, right? The stench is still there. Therefore, they're very personable. They're very loving. They're like the ideal teacher. Something is there. There are other teachers, arhats, there's one from the Dazhidulan, Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, mentioned about this one. He just has a habit tendency of anger. He's got anger issues. There is no anger operating in him, but it's just these residue, right? I see some people just scold them. It's like to scold people. Yeah, don't do that. Shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But not out of spite, not out of anger. It's just residue. These things, karmic imprints are present. They have no effect on the practitioner. It doesn't come from the poisons. Does it affect other people? Unfortunately, yes. It affects everyone around. That's why the Bodhisattva path is very important. Right? Expose, embrace, don't stop there. Transform. Use what you've got, maximize, transform them into wholesome. So passion, transform to compassion. Right? Anger, transform to ferocious determination. These are just vexations, but some of the habit tendency that's present, kind of karmic imprints, are not so obvious like vexations. They are circumstantial. Like circumstances in life that you find yourself in. For example, always poor. Not too much money. Not too much extra cash. Yeah, a lot of arhats are like that. Lopsided wisdom. Little merit. Well, how does one generate merit? Compassion. Helping all beings. So when you need help, all the resources come. Right? There are arhats that go alms begging. Everyone else gets food. When it gets to them, no more food left. Karmic imprint. Mudgayayana, supernatural power number 1. He's the left hand of the Buddha. The right hand is Shariputra. Left hand is Mudgayayana. The way he died, he was sabotaged, ambushed by bandits, hired bandits, jealous people of him, with deer horn, dismembered. That is karmic retribution right there. Mudgayayana. Of course, he was supernatural power number 1. After he died, he reassembled himself. Went to the Buddha. Like, unfortunately, I have to leave you, teacher. I have to go to nirvana now. And he was like, okay, I see. But, some of them are very poor. Some of them are obvious vexations. Some of them is just circumstantial. Karmic imprints, definitely there. Self absent. It takes continual practice on the Bodhisattva path. the path that we're on. For the benefit of others, we engage in practice. For all those affected by us, contaminated by our own vexations on them, we practice to diminish. Not for our own selfish, I want enlightenment, but for the benefit of others, for the world. We practice because we belong to the world. We belong to each other. We're here because of all the benefit and the nourishment that we have received from everyone else. Directly, indirectly, positively, adversely, all those we meet are bodhisattvas to us. They have helped us. They have shaped us. How many of you, for example, have begun your practice, come to the center or elsewhere, because of some adversity in your life, difficulties in your life, people, events, right? Those are our bodhisattvas. They have shaped us. Think about it. They have provided opportunity to practice the Dharma. That's really precious. So although retribution, karmic retribution, even vexations are present, we turn them into opportunities. My teacher used to say, there are two reasons why we've come to this world. Would you like to know? What? You got an answer? Yes. He says, one, to repay karmic debt. Two, to fulfill our vow. They're actually the same thing. We're here due to karma. That's from the Buddhist perspective. He just kind of rephrased it in a way that we can understand, right? But that's a teaching. It's not a statement. How many of you wish to go through your life repaying karmic debts? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you, it's a trick question actually. How many of you would like to fulfill your vows? Raise your hand. Oh, that sounds much better. It's the same thing. The karmic debts that you repay, when it comes to you, it becomes opportunity of compassion to fulfill my vows. Live by vow. Don't live dragging around, pushed and pulled by your karmic retribution. The circumstances that dictate your life. The situations that you find yourself in as if you're a victim. No, don't do that. The circumstances are the arena through which you practice. Then live by vow. Bodhisattva vow. Does it make sense? Yeah. And all that we are, all that we have, the way that we're all connected, we are each other's path. Buddha Dharma. Buddha Dharma, Buddha Dharma, Buddha Dharma, Buddha Dharma. You see? So, the important message here tonight is just to use it. Use Buddha Dharma. First, get the 5 Skandhas down, kind of new way of looking at yourself, the world, experiencing. And for each one, go in deep form, sensation, perception, deep. Just explore. And then you have some insight, you have some experience. Naturally you will. Maybe fear will come up, maybe angst will come up. It's okay. It's another byproduct. Just keep going. Another scenery. Keep going. It's all good. Lately, I've been receiving some text from this student. She practiced very hard, and she's probably on Zoom now. She practiced very hard, and she has all these experiences, sometimes fear, sometimes meeting people, anxiousness, and then observing that. Is that observing the Five Skandhas? Am I contemplating the Five Skandhas if I do that? It's like a fish swimming. Am I swimming now? Is it swimming? I'm like, yeah, you're swimming. Just do it. You're already swimming. You are Five Skandhas. And the Five Skandhas are working themselves through you. All you need to do is just observe. All the things that come up, the volitional impulses that come up, the mental factors that come up. Don't get caught up with the scenery. Keep swimming. Keep swimming so nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. Imagine fish try to swim the water and the water becomes ice. It's like, it will just freeze. The water flows. Nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. Non-abiding. Abiding nowhere. Moment to moment experiencing. Just allow everything to happen. And yet, engage with the world. Everything becomes the arena of fulfilling your vows. Therefore, Avalokiteshvara, thereby transcending all suffering. Right? All suffering. So my teacher's book on his commentary on the Heart Sutra, the title, do you know what the title is? The title is No Suffering. There is no suffering. Right. What's there then? Well, it's for you to find out. What's there? All right. Any questions? So we can take questions here. We can take questions from on the Zoom. Yeah. So allow them to unmute. We can't see them, but allow them to unmute and they can just ask. But let's start with here. Anyone have any questions? Yeah, Corey.
Hello? Can you hear it?
Yeah. As long as the green light is on, it's fine.
Okay. First question I have is the idea that the sensation and the skandhas, I should say, are empty. What exactly is empty? If they are empty, empty is in fact something.
Empty of fixed things.
Okay.
Like this cup is empty. Well, it's not quite empty. There's still some water left. But if there were no water left, it's empty of water. Right? So it's just freedom. It's fullness. It's relationship. It's not a dead emptiness, like jhada, that I spoke about. That's a thing. So that's why it's called dead. Because the mind has fixated. I'm experiencing emptiness. I feel so free. I'm experiencing emptiness. This has become a thing. Self and that state have merged into one. The grasping has taken that to be me, mine. There's gaining, there's losing. There's having experience, there's lacking experience. You see, that's why that state is not real emptiness. Real emptiness is alive, potent, free, wondrous. In the chant, they call it wondrous existence. True emptiness, wondrous existence. That's what they call it. That's how they describe it, you see. Okay.
And so that makes more sense because the next question was whether or not if you're actually contemplating this concept deeply, is that a form of rejecting as well? the idea that everything that you're experiencing is in fact empty, when you practice it from an individual perspective, I could say it gives me this feeling that I'm just simply rejecting
Yeah.
my experiences.
Excellent question. Yeah, that's why I say when someone is contemplating emptiness, one of the symptoms is, they want to let go of responsibilities too. Definitely want to let go of like noise, distractions, all the things that you don't like. So grasping and rejecting are both there. The three poisons, full. Greed, hatred, ignorance, all there. That's why these kind of side effects. But that's from wrong contemplation. Don't create a thing to contemplate. If you create a thing, you reject some other thing. So when you create a sensation, it's not a particular sensation you're actually looking for. It's free. Moment to moment, it's free. Even if negative sensations arise, distraction, it's actually free. It's freeing. They liberate themselves the next moment. If you hold back, you don't reify it. Moment to moment, distractions, wandering thought, negative feelings, they free themselves. That's their true nature. No rejecting. There's a vivid aliveness to that. Yeah. So, yes, we are focusing on one thing at a time, maybe form, and then next week, sensation, But it's not an actual thing. It's already present now. We're just kind of like shining a spotlight on this. But all five are already there. We just so that we learn, we shine a spotlight on one. Does that make sense? And we allow it to be free.
So with that, you mentioned the ability to transform the experiences into things that are more useful, using perception, right? How would one specifically use an experience of grief or loss with someone close to them to transform that experience? Do you have a recommendation for that?
We transform by just facing and just embracing that. That itself will allow, that process itself will allow things to open up and transform. Things are always transforming, right? If you hold on to grief, I'm in mourning now. I am depressed now. If you hold on to that, there's no transformation. Same thing as my answer to the contemplation. Don't make anything into a thing. Like I often say, don't make anything into a thing. That's a kind of principle. So the grief in loss, there's a lot of, for example, love. There's love. And there's love, and we allow that to be present. Right? That's just one, but there could be a lot of things. Love and death, grief, intertwined. So the more open you are, start fixing into a thing, the more open you are, all of these things will flow through. And that becomes healing, as opposed to reification. Right? I want to get back to what you said. So doing something so we can apply it to something more useful. You said more useful. The contemplation itself is very useful because it is our life. Like we're Five Skandhas now. We're experiencing that now. So it's everything. So the Heart Sutra describes who we are, what our experiences, how do we experience them, and the experience, and the environment in which the experience emerge. It's everywhere. It is life. It is life. Five Skandhas is the foundation. Later on, the text start to unpack everything from the Five Skandhas. And we start to get into the depth of stages of practice. Right? From beginner all the way to the awakened practitioner, great bodhisattvas. They're still practicing the Heart Sutra. Great bodhisattvas are still engaging in prajnaparamita. They're still in the course. You see? So it's a complete course. So we'll unpack that little by little. Okay? So grief, no problem. It's all good. Yeah. All right, anyone from Zoom? Or someone here? All right, Noah has a question.
So, basically, there was a few ways of thinking about asking this. So I'm going to try, and if it's not clear, I can clear it up.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a lot of like shirts in my drawer.
Yeah.
That just have like some of them just have little bits of like stains on them from doing stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I kind of used to get, I think before I started like meditating a lot, I'd get something on my shirt and I'd get so upset. Like, this is my favorite shirt, I spent money on this shirt, someone gave me it. But then nowadays I'm more able, I think, to let them go. But the result is that sometimes I'm walking around with a stained shirt because I forget to throw it out or fix it because it never really upset me. And so that happens, and that I think that's a little benign, but it also kind of happens with people where like someone might say something that hurts me and I go through the whole process of going through the emotion, just feeling it, letting it go, not holding it against them. But now I'm walking around with like a relationship in which something has been,
Stained.
impure, stained, yeah. And so I'm not upset about it, but like I'm still wearing a shirt that's not, I mean, it's performing its function, it's fine, but like, not great, I guess.
So
what do you, are
we
you
do,
supposed to do anything about that, or you just?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Good question. We have to find the best product out there to get rid of the stain, to work on it. We don't just passively, stain. If I clean it up this week, maybe next week I'll get another one. Or like, why bother brushing teeth? Just gonna eat something a few hours later, and tomorrow you clean. You clean, and you don't be so fixated about it. You do your best. You do your best. The very reason we have stains is because of causes and conditions that situates us in a particular way, so we are receptive of stains. Right? We don't passively accept. We try our best to expose the conditions, accept them when they come. Find ways to transform them. Sometimes we have to wait for causes and conditions. Sometimes we have to create causes and conditions. Right? So, all that part of practice. Is that feasible? Yeah.
Thank you.
All of us are walking with stained shirt. How many of you have shirts that have no stain whatsoever? Yeah. Okay. Anyone?
Yes, there's one question on Zoom from Azam. She asks, how does one contemplate the last skandha, consciousness?
Didn't I talk about this in the Five Skandhas? First talk. You can contemplate the consciousness from dependent origination, relationships. This moment of consciousness, the faculty is not brain. The faculty is not materiality. the faculty is previous moment of consciousness. That moment, the emergence of consciousness, has its own causal effect of cause and effect, leading to cause and effect, leading to cause and effect, leading to cause and effect. Material form has its own cause and conditions and effect. Right? So the mental consciousness, its faculty is actually previous moment. And the object of consciousness is what? Thought. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought. Thought is the object. The faculty is actually this instant of consciousness, which has its root on previous moment of consciousness. How do consciousness arrive? It arises in interdependence from sense faculty, sense object, and the cognitive moment of awareness. It's a tripartite relationship. So contemplation of consciousness is understanding of the workings of this relationship. It's a relational contemplation. That's one way to do it. And it's very easy to do. You know how when you, sometimes in a bad mood, from previous moment, and then the next guy, the poor soul, gets a taste of your bad mood. Right? That continuity. You have to observe that. Observe that. And observe the emergence of whatever mental state that we experience. For example, the freshness that we experience. This freshness itself is empty. This freshness itself is contingent on faculty, object, that experiencing. So, my suggestion is start with form first. Don't jump the gun. Start with the form and work your way up, right, to more subtle levels of contemplation. Right, consciousness being last. Okay? Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Let's chant the Heart Sutra. And make sure the body is relaxed, grounded. Just experiencing the sounds. Sounds from outside, sounds that you produce yourself.
when the
Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara coursing in the deep prajna paramita he perceives all five skandhas are empty, thereby transcending all suffering. Shariputra, form is nada, and emptiness none other. Form is precisely emptiness precisely form. Also our sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness. Shariputra, this voidness of all dharmas is not born, destroyed, not impure, not pure, does not increase or decrease. Voidness, there is no form and no sensation, volition or consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no sight, sound, smell, taste. There is no realm of the eye all the way up to no realm of mental cognition. Ignorance, and there is no ending of ignorance, true to no aging and death. Of aging and death, there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering. There is no wisdom or any attainment with nothing to attain. Bodhisattva Prajna paramita have no obstructions in their minds, having no obstructions, there is no fear. Parting far from confusion and imaginings, they reach ultimate. All past, present, and future Buddhas relying on prajna paramita attain Dharma samyak sambodhi, therefore know the prajna paramita. Mantra of power, the great mantra of wisdom, the supreme mantra, the unequal mantra. To remove all sufferings, it is real and not false, therefore recite the mantra of prajna paramita. Gate para, gate para, samgate bodhi. Swaha. Thank you. Have a good night.